The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
Proclamation of the Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you always. This is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him, because he abides with you, and he will be in you. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you in a little while. The world will no longer see me, but you will see me, because I live, you also will live. On that day you will know that I am in the Father, and you in me, and I in you. They who have my commandments and keep them are those who love me. And those who love me will be loved by my Father. And I will love them and reveal myself to them." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
When I was in high school and exam time came around, we had to prepare ourselves well for the exam if we wanted a good mark. Sometimes we did a lot of cramming. But the lights went out at 9:30 at night. So to do any cramming, you had to take a flashlight and do the work then, hoping that no one would discover you. This is the time that we prepare for the coming of the Holy Spirit, Pentecost. And the more we prepare for it, the more the Holy Spirit is going to come down on us and touch our lives very deeply. And that's what Jesus was trying to do to his apostles. He was trying to prepare them when he was to leave them. And he could undoubtedly see the anxiety on their faces because Jesus was going to leave them. So he said to them, "I am going to send you an advocate." An advocate is an individual who's a helper. Something comparable to, say, maybe an attorney or a lawyer that helps us in some legal matter. So Jesus was going to send us that helper, the Holy Spirit. And he also goes so far as to say, "I am not going to leave you orphans." Orphans. I've read a couple of books on people who were orphans, and what amazed me was how these individuals were able to survive that. They were abused in their orphanages. So Jesus recognized the fact that only the Spirit could help individuals in that way. Help these individuals, help the apostles to really go out and spread the good news, as we heard in the second reading, the first reading. rather. Because here you find Philip, who's going out, proclaiming that good news to others, and is able to even dispel demons. That's the power of the Spirit. And what they did then in the early church is when they would send them out to give witness to Jesus in their lives, they would mark them just like we were marked at our confirmation with the oil. Last Sunday we had 76 that were confirmed over at St. James. 66 from St. James, 10 from this parish. They were marked with the power of the Spirit on their foreheads. Every single one of us was marked with that. There was one pastor one time, he said to our congregation, how many of you can say that I was baptized in the Catholic Church? Raise your hands. The next question was more challenging. How many of you can say that I really feel the power of the Spirit in my life? Raise your hands. See, not as many. And that's why I think it's so important for us that we prepare then for the coming of that Spirit, so that that Spirit can down on us and also touch our lives and give us the ability to be able to carry out especially one of the characteristics of the Spirit, and that is what Jesus talked about in the gospel today: love. Love. And the highest kind of love that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI talks about in his beautiful encyclical on love, where he speaks about agape love. Agape love means self-gift. Really means that you love someone even though you don't get anything in return. That's very challenging, to be able to love in that way. Because so often the reason we love is because we get the love in return. But the highest kind of love is the ability to be able to love others even when they don't love us. That's most challenging. How many of you remember Fiddler on the Roof, that musical? Remember that musical, Fiddler on the Roof? Well, Tevye asks his wife whether or not she loves him. Do you love me, he asks. And here's this woman who's been dedicated to him for 25 years, who reared his children, who did the cooking, the washing, everything else. And remember what her response was? I suppose so. I says, what? I suppose so. In other words, you have to see love in action. That's what real love is. In action. Not to simply say, I love you, I love you, I love you, but to be able to say, I show it by my actions. Then we really know that the Spirit has touched us in our life. And that's why Peter could say too, because he experienced that in his life, that sometimes when you show that kind of love, what's going to happen is that even then, in doing good, he says, you are going to suffer. That's right. Look at Jesus, how he suffered. A little while ago, I read a book entitled The Iron Man of China. The Iron Man of China. It's a story about a Menomonee priest who prepared himself to go over in China. And when he went over there, what he did for over 20 years, he reached out to these people and touched their lives because he was a spirited individual. But once the communists took over, what happened was they immediately accused him of impropriety. They said he was doing some financial business there, which was not appropriate. He was even killing, they said, those orphans in his orphanage. But he was able to withstand all that and be able to say, yes, if the Spirit is with me, I can overcome that. And he was able to rebuff all those accusations that were made against him. So what happened was then he was put in house arrest. And the only food that he got was to be able to sustain him day after day. And what they would do is they would take their garbage and throw it in his house. Finally, he was released. But here was a spirited individual who opened himself up to the Lord, was able to say, yes, if that Spirit is going to touch my life, then I have to be able to show this love even to those who accuse me of impropriety. How many of us would be willing to do that? That's the highest kind of love. And you'll know that you are exercising that kind of love because then you know that the Spirit has really touched your life. So, are we ready to show that kind of love? Yes.